Project Dirt, Chapter 3. So let's go down and get another slave then. Rokes replied as they walked, stopped, and checked a screen. But first books, right? He looked at Adam. Yes, books first. And why buy a slave? I bought your sister to help you so you would help me. I'm actually against slavery. It's illegal where I'm from for a damn good reason. That's why I wrote the contract as I did. They are as free as I could make them. He ignored the screen and looked at Rokes, who looked very confused now. Slavery illegal? What do you do with criminals? Captured enemy combatants, and people who can't pay their debts? He had forgotten all about the books and engineers they needed. We put them in prison. You don't have prisons? And there are other ways. Besides, we normally hire people who want to be hired. Adam looked at him as if Rokes made no sense, and Rokes laughed. Wow, you earthlings. Okay, we can hire somebody straight from school, but we might have to wait a while. We can talk about human ways later. Man, prison for every criminal? That's barbaric. Remind me never to go to a human world. He turned back to the screen and found the shop. Adam wondered if something had been lost in translation. The prison wasn't that bad. It couldn't be worse than slavery. He followed Rokes to the shop, and as they were about to enter, Rokes stopped him. I'll do the talking, okay? Next time we return, you can buy the books. I don't want another situation like with Soshu. You okay with that? He was quite serious. But when Adam nodded in agreement, he smirked and went inside. Adam turned his attention to his pad and asked to talk to Vorts. Yes, sir. What can I help you with? Vorts sounded a little worried and looked at the screen. I just wanted you to review the delivered goods and let me know if we need anything. I will grant you access to the library computer. There are some files there. Besides the fertile earth, the first goal is to gain a functional atmosphere, so anything that can help there would be good. Yes, sir. I don't think your droid will allow me to look at those files into your quarters. He looked off screen again to the same point, and it clicked for Adam. D01. They are allowed into the general quarters and access to open files. You do not need to follow them around, Adam said with a slight smirk. He forgot droids take everything literally. He heard an affirmative on the screen and the sound of metal boots leaving. Vorts seemed to calm down. Thank you, sir. I will get right to it. What should I do if I notice something we need? Make a list and send it to me. The ship should have 163 cubic meters left. He checked the ship's status on the pad. And I want it filled up before we leave. Do you want me to fill the cargo hold with organics? I don't think we should mix the organic trash with your goods. And you have 13 cubic meters left in the cargo hold 1. Do you want to fill that up with organics? That will leave cargo hold 2, 3, and 4 free for other goods. Or you can fill more of them up. Fill up cargo hold 1 and let me know how much is left after the goods are delivered. Can you also check out the files on Project Dirt? We are going to be busy here. We have to find and hire an engineer as well. Engineer? There was one in the pen. He was a Bugino with a baby boy. Vorts replied. I doubt people would buy him, so he will probably still be there. Why? Because of the baby boy. Adam felt his stomach knotted at the description. A baby was held as a slave. The Buginos are mostly peaceful and loyal. Very loyal to their family. Somebody killed the mother, so he went on a rampage and killed the fools with his bare hands. He will probably kill anybody who tries to separate him from his child, and nobody wants a baby that needs extra care. They are probably trying to find ways to separate them. He could hear Vorts starting up the library computer as he spoke. Pretty sad too. The baby is quite cute, Hara commented from the side, and Adam smirked. He had an idea, probably a bad idea, but this might work. What's his name? Yorkwert. He's a level 5 engineer, so he's expensive. But you have to take his baby too. Hara had taken over the speaking now. She seemed a little eager now. Well, babies need medical supervision. I'm just glad I already got a nurse. Make a list of what we need for that as well. I got to go now. I see Rokes coming. He hung up as he came over to him. So what now? Oh, you owe me 850 bits. He handed him a small bag filled with memory crystals, and Adam smirked as he accepted them. You know you're right. Let's just do it easily and get an engineer from the slave pen. But first, we need to drop by the lawyer again. I need a new contract. He started to walk, but Rokes looked confused at him. I thought you didn't like slaves. I have nothing against slaves. I have something against slavery. I spoke with your sister, and she told me of somebody who needs our help and might be able to help us as well. Adam walked faster. Starting to feel a need to fix this, they quickly got to the law office and were greeted by the avian-looking secretary. "Back already? Mr. Harry Roro will be quite pleased. I will let him know you're here." She almost sang the words, and they sat down. Rokes looked quite uncomfortable where he was sitting. Adam felt more relaxed here. The room was light with an artificial air freshener that smelled of fruit. An android came over with refreshments, and after a minute, the door to the lawyer guilded open and they were invited in. Adam smiled at the lawyer, gave him a small nod, and then stopped a little confused. Next to him sat a lady he had seen earlier. Rokes showed his teeth for a second before realizing where he was and controlling himself. Next to Mr. Harry Rowe sat the Haran lady they had seen earlier the day. She glared at Rokes but did not say anything. Adam looked between them and back at Mr. Harry Rowe. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were with a client. I feel embarrassed now. We can leave and return later." The old avian man laughed. No. This is Mrs. Minna, my colleague and partner. Of course, if your friend is uncomfortable, I can ask her to leave." Adam looked at Rokes, who controlled himself. "Of course not. I'm sorry for my outburst. I was just surprised. I should have expected a Haran in the law business," Rokes replied, a little ashamed, and Mrs. Minna slowly nodded quite felinely. "Apologize, accepted," she replied as she ignored him and turned her attention back to Adam. "I was impressed by the raw contract you set up. You must have some law practice." "Thank you, and you are correct. I need another contract for a slave with a child. I want the child to be registered as a free person, if possible. Only the father should be in my service for the minimum needed time. The rest should be like we discussed earlier. This person will take on the position of engineer in my company." They all seemed to study him as he spoke, but he ignored it and focused on what he was setting up as he took out his pad, loaded up the contract, and handed it over. Mrs. Minna took the pad as she studied him. Then she turned to Rokes. "Is he real?" Mr. Harry Rowe laughs delightfully as he gets up, walks over to a screen, and activates it, going through the search history and finding the slave market, and turns to Adam. "You have a name for this engineer?" Rokes nods to her and then shakes his head while muttering, "Humans, children of chaos, and apparently peacemakers. Yorkwert. I was told he was a level 5 engineer. It's the same firm as the last one." He walked over to the screen, and there, the man came up. "Is that a Buginos?" The man in the picture was about 2 meters tall, a muscular man with yellow skin and grey dots going down his arms. He had 4 blue eyes and large floppy ears, and was almost entirely bald, with 2 green knotted braids hanging down his back. In his arm was a small version of him. It was a small bundle that nearly fitted completely in his arms. The man was an engineer, as he had been told. He had a sentence of 150 years for killing 15 members of a street gang as vengeance, and he had been given 20 years extra for taking the law into his own hands. Harry Rowe looked at the intel and back to Adam. "You can never release him, but you can free the child immediately." Adam nodded. "That's his only crime as well. I think he will appreciate a second chance." Mrs. Minna got up and handed him the contract. "Let me know if you need a wife. I can get one cheap." Adam looked at her as his jaw dropped. "Wife? For whom?" "I'm not going to force somebody to marry him." Rokes laughed at his reaction. "For you. She's asking if you want a wife." "Me?" Adam got blustered. "No, I don't need one. But thank you for the offer. I think we will be going now. I will transfer the money now." He hurried out the door, then stopped, bowed, and said his goodbye before getting out of there as he paid for their services. Mrs. Minna looked confused after him, as Rokes laughingly followed after Adam. "You impressed her. I have never seen a Haran offering up one of their own before. You were smart to say no. She was probably looking forward to eating you." Rokes could hardly contain his laughter as they headed to the slave market. Adam just tried to forget the whole incident, and after 30 minutes, he stood outside the market with his now 3rd slave. He felt sick to his stomach at the thought, and didn't notice the look from Jork. Adam felt like a creep as he walked towards the ship. He could hear Rox and Jork speaking behind him, and he shut it out. This was not what he wanted to use his money on. If he could buy his freedom and set him free, he would accept it. But now he was burdened with being a slave owner for the rest of Jork's life, maybe even his own. He could not even kill himself. If he died, Jork would automatically become a slave to the government again. His plan had backfired, and he didn't like it. They got to the ships, and he walked inside, telling D01 who the new crewmates were and their roles. Then he said he needed to retire for the night. He apologized to Rokes and the other. He avoided looking at Jork as he could not look him in his eyes. He simply turned and went to his room. Adam woke up from that nightmare he had not had for a few years. He hit the wall and screamed in frustration. This was not going to be fun. This place would remind him of that nightmare. He sat up, went to shower, and then dressed. He looked at the cabin door and took a deep breath. He needed to talk to Jork and make him understand. When he left his room, he heard laughter and singing. He smelled food also. He slowly walked to the sound, expecting it to stop as he stepped inside, and it did. "I hope my singing didn't disturb you, Master," Jork said with a smile as he held a frying pan with what looked like a purple pancake being cooked. "Don't call me Master. I'm not your master. I simply gave you a second chance. You're not a slave in my eyes. Understand that. I'm not your master, if you say so. But you did save me and my son. Little Micah will have a chance to grow up because of you. So you might see yourself as my master, but you are my master and his second father." York's voice was still filled with joy and defiance at not being allowed to call him master. Adam looked at him and the little bundle in Hara's arms. She looked at him, then back at the bay, and smiled. Vort smirked as he chewed on one of the purple pancakes. "Second father?" Adam looked surprised and sat down, rubbing his temple. "I can't deal with this now. Did you make the list of what we need?" He turned to Vorts, who nodded and handed him the pad. "I looked at the planetary scans. The dumping of organic is not going to work. The atmosphere is too thin, and the heat evaporates too quickly. The night temperatures reach minus 40 degrees, while the day temperatures can reach boiling points. You need to focus on the atmosphere first, so you need to melt at least 30% of both poles. That will give you water vapors, but there are other gases you need as well. You should dump the organics in one of those domes in your building. That way, you can make some dirt, and once you fix the atmosphere, you can return to your waste project." Vort seemed to understand that Adam needed to focus on something other than the current situation, and he explained as simply as he could what needed to be done. Adam looked at the list. "What's a sun generator? And why do we need 5 of them?" "They are ice melters. Miners use them to melt away the ice to access minerals in asteroids. You need 2 for each pole. The last is spare parts," Jorks replied as he put a plate in front of him. "They are effective, but there is always a chance they break down." Adam looked at him, and the plate grabbed a pancake. He chewed on it as he looked over the list. 3 speeders? No, just buy the print design. I have factory printers." He changed it on the list. "Same here, and this, and this." He changed 3 more items, then accessed his account and opened a company account. He put in 50,000 credits and handed it to Vorts. "You and Rokes can get this. Once Jork has fixed Rokes' ships, we will fill up the cargo hold and leave. I need to study the books he got me." He grabbed the plate and got up. "Good pancakes, by the way." "What are pancakes?"